Jesse did this at the Ron Paul rally, so I got to do too. I forgot two important things. I've got 6 opponents in the primary on Tuesday, so if you want me to go against Norman Al, go to the primary on Tuesday and get me through that. Thank you.
Thank you. And please, if you're a Minnesotan, remember to do that. Because it's very, very important. You know, I would have never, ever had the opportunity to be the governor of Minnesota if it hadn't been for Dean Barkley and people like Dean who paved the way for me. Because they got a little-known party called the Independence Party that got a major party status here in Minnesota. You know, here in Minnesota, we are the mecca of the third-party movement. Yeah. We truly are. Because I believe we have legitimately 4 major party status, if I'm not mistaken. Of course, the Dems and the Republicans, the Independence Party, and the Green Party, I believe, all have major party status in Minnesota, which is good. Just a quick story. While I was governor, it was fun because whenever I go to Washington, they have the National Governors Convention. And the first night there, you go to the White House and all of that stuff. But then the second day there and the third day there was all business. And so they would have the Democratic governors would all meet in this building, the Republican governors would all meet in this building, and lo and behold, there was only myself and Governor Angus King of Maine. And we were the independent contingent, so we would meet on Constitution Avenue and walk down and sit on the park bench. And that was the, I guess, the independent caucus while we were there. Thank you. What was fun about it though was all the press followed us. We were the ones that were accessible. The Dems and Repubs were locked in these buildings that cost money. Angus and I, we accomplished what we needed to do for free out on the park bench. Let me add that if you look statistically, year in and year out, percentage-wise, Minnesota and Maine always lead the nation in voter turnout. Isn't it ironic that those were the 2 states out of the 50 that had elected an independent governor? Notice when there's more choices, more people participate. It doesn't require brain surgery to figure that out. More choices, more people. So how can the Democrats and Republicans say they're for us when they're choking down the choices and they truly want less people because smaller numbers are easier to control? That's what we're here for. That's what I'm here to talk about, is gaining access to the debates. And the reason it is so difficult today to gain that access, you're looking at it. No, you're looking at why it's so difficult. Because I proved you could win if you are allowed to debate. If you are allowed in the debates, the candidate that no one gives a chance to, lo and behold, can win. It's happened. I did it. I was polling at the primary a mere 10%. Now this is 7 weeks before the general election. 10%. But I was allowed to debate, and we probably had a half a dozen or more debates. After the first debate, I started making a, shall we call it a meteoric rise? And the timing was perfect, and by the time the last debate took place, maybe 3 days before the election took place, I was polling now 27%, but let's remember now you're in a 3-way race. So you got to throw out all those normal numbers. You're in a 3. Well, they were then calling it a dead heat between all 3. But here's what The Secretary of State predicted there would be a 50% voter turnout that year because it was a non-presidential. Lo and behold, it ended up 60%. I was at 27, that additional 10% that came out and voted because I was allowed to debate people they didn't count on. See, if they open these debates up, more people that maybe normally would not vote will come out and vote. We were the proof. The proof is in the pudding, as they like to say. I garnered that extra 10% that the experts said wouldn't be there, and lo and behold, as we said that fateful November night in '98, we shocked the world. By the way, I stole that quote from my Muslim idol, Muhammad Ali. Just thought I'd say that. Imagine having a Muslim for an idol. But then again, I live in Mexico today too. You know, and that takes a great deal of courage. You know, I live amongst 900 miles down amongst those brown-skinned people that we're so frightened of. We're going to build fences and walls and all this to keep them out. Imagine the courage I have. I don't even know their language. And I live 900 miles amongst them, and I'm still here today to talk to you. And in a month and a half, I will drive 3,300 miles again and go amongst the terrifying brown-skinned people that we're building fences and walls to keep out. Remember this, if I may add something. On a serious note, remember, people, when you build a fence to keep someone out, 10 years from now, that same fence might be to keep you in. Because there are people both ways, okay? As far as I know, a fence works both ways. It not only can prevent someone from coming in, it can also prevent someone from going out. And I personally don't view the United States of America that we ought to look to East Berlin as our model. That's the way the third-party stuff is. It's great. It's to fly by the seat of your pants, what the heck, you know, but it works. And, but again, I can't urge you enough. You know, when I won governor, the people somewhat abandoned me because you have an attitude, okay, we elected the big guy, now we can go on with what we do and he'll take care of it. But you don't realize when you're a third party, we've got to have you. If we don't have you and us, the Dems and Repubs people are not going to listen. I wanted to bring in unicameral, single-house legislation in the state of Minnesota, which is a far better way to run state government, more efficient, more bang for your buck. Nebraska is the only state that has had it for 80 years or better. Do you know they have never had to have a special session due that they could not reach a budget agreement? We have them now every session. There's a special session attached, which costs more money, builds up, they can pay higher taxes. That's how it works. The longer and more they work, and their job, they believe, is to pass more laws. Well, remember, every time a law is passed, it comes with a price tag. And you wonder why government grows and becomes so expensive? Well, getting back to my original thing, I needed the public behind me on that, and they weren't there. I couldn't even get them to take a vote on the floor to allow you to choose the type of government you would want in your state, bicameral or unicameral. It would have been a great education. Even if bicameral would have won, it would have still been a tremendous educational process that would have taken place, educating the public on the differences between a two-house bicameral legislature as opposed to a one-house unicameral. Now remember, federally, you've got to have a bicameral. Otherwise, California would be running the country. And we all know how tragic that could maybe be. No offense, Arnold. Anyway, But the point is, it would have been a great educational process that would have taken place in Minnesota, educating the public, allowing them to choose the type of government they would like to be governed under, which to me is important. I couldn't even get a vote on the floor. I couldn't even get the bill read, let alone try to get it on the ballot. Why? Because the public did not apply any pressure. They are not going to do anything unless they think you care. And if you shut up and don't do anything, well then they think you don't care. And then you get business as usual and the same government that we've had now, the two-party dictatorship. I like to steal that from Ralph. That's a great quote. Or, as I like to call it myself, imagine if you would, you go into the grocery store. You go to the soft drink department, and your only choice is Pepsi and Coke. There's no Mountain Dew, there's no 7-Up, there's no Orange, there's no root beer. There's Coke and Pepsi, 2 colas, one slightly sweeter than the other, depending upon your taste buds. Well, that's what we have here today in our politics in America, Coke and Pepsi. Those are your choices, people. There are no others.
We want Dr. Ventura.
Well, Dr. Ventura don't know yet because I didn't run for the Senate, and I'll tell you why. Those jobs to me are like sentencing yourself to prison. To me they are, because you live a scheduled life. Everything you do is under more scrutiny because you're independent. How many people remember when I got in office and I wrote my autobiography and the Minnesota media accused me of profiteering? Remember that? They said he's won this job to make profits, sell books, to earn money. He's nothing but a profiteer, right? That's what they accused me of when I won. Yet, 1 month later, John McCain came through on a book tour and they heralded him. They said, "My, what a marvelous book, Senator McCain. What can we do for you?" Yet when I did it, and the point I'm making is, when you're a third-party candidate, you're held to higher principles than what the Democrats and Republicans are held to by our media. Trust me on that one. But again, and I'll finish by saying this, we have always been a country by the people, for the people, and of the people. And the only way we're going to get back to that, again, won't be from me. It won't be from necessarily Dean Barkley. It won't be from Ralph Nader. It will be from you. We are simply the people out here that are not you. Let's remember this, and I'll finish like this, if you'll allow me. Always remember the great words of Thomas Jefferson. When Thomas Jefferson stated dissension is the greatest form of patriotism. Let me repeat that again, because that's something we're not hearing much of today. Dissension is the greatest form of patriotism by Thomas Jefferson. September the 11th of 2001, we have been living under the philosophy of a person who said that it's easy to take a country to war. Oh, wait, let me finish. All you have to do is convince them they're under attack, denounce the pacifists,